Hello, Okemo Valley. This is Carol Lighthall with Okemo Valley Chamber of Commerce. Today we're talking all about transportation, or as much as we know to talk about. I have a couple of experts in one way or another with us talking about transportation today, and I'll go ahead and introduce you. Jason Rasmussen is someone I've known for quite some time. He's with Southern Windsor County Regional Planning Commission. He's the planning director. There's Jason. Rebecca Gagnor is general manager with the current bus service. We also have Justin Hyjek. Is that how you say your last name? Hyjek?
Sure.
Hyjek?
Either way is fine.
And he and his partner run Homestyle Hostel. They also run Main and Mountain Bar and Motel in downtown Ludlow. One person who couldn't be here is Emily Mathis, and she's operations manager with the Weston Playhouse. So today we're going to talk about transportation, and I think to kick us off, I'll tell you an interesting little story I ran into. So some of you know I've been with Okemo Valley Chamber of Commerce since the end of June. Sometime in August, I got a series of phone calls from a man who's a second homeowner just on the outskirts of Ludlow, 3 miles away, and he called. His partner went back to New Jersey, and he really wanted to stay put in their house here. And so he called expecting that he could get a ride from a taxi or some way from his home into town to get provisions. And so it was a little bit of an education for him and for me to learn that it's a challenge. So he called, and I looked up taxi services and found that yes, there are a couple of listed taxi services, and we appreciate them very much. In this case, the schedules didn't quite match up with the need of the man needing the ride. So we had in one day a series of maybe 5 or 6 phone calls about possible ways for him to get a ride into town so he could buy groceries. At the end of the day, we got to the end of the day, it was about 4 o'clock, and I called him and I said, "Put your shoes on, I'm coming to get you." And so it was 3 miles up the road. I picked him up. He was very happy, highly impressed that a chamber would go out of their way to do this. It was kind of funny. I brought him to pick up the products he needed and brought him home safe and sound. So 3 miles over, 3 miles back. I provided the transportation, and I think it just really set in my mind that we can do better than this. And so transportation for our region, currently Okemo Valley Chamber of Commerce covers 14 villages and towns. And so the need of transportation isn't the same in all the towns. Grafton has talked about a challenge there, Weston and Ludlow for sure. So let's start just understanding what our transportation system is within the region. Jason, would you mind jumping in and just talking about numbers, whatever you care to share?
Sure. So we're in a very rural region, of course, and to just sort of set the stage, because transportation in a rural place is difficult. Usually it's very auto-oriented, and we're really no exception to that. So to give you a sense, Ludlow's population, the most recent estimate I've seen for 2015 is like 2,140. So that's the year-round population in Ludlow. But during the winter, the sort of the daytime population increases quite a bit to maybe 18 to 22,000 people. And so, that's a huge influx. And a lot of these people who are coming here to ski and other things are from New York City or wherever, and they have different expectations for transportation. Here in Ludlow and the surrounding region, we're really, our system is predominating, I guess, by driving. We all drive. The road network here in Ludlow, there's about 100 plus miles of roads, about 5 miles of sidewalks. We've got a number of different bus services, which maybe Rebecca can talk about. The railroad comes through town, but there's really no passenger service at this point in time. Ludlow is halfway between two different airports, the one in Rutland, the one in Springfield. Springfield has charter service only, so maybe I think a lot of skiers are coming through Rutland, might want to ride to get here from the airport, and that's a little bit lacking at the moment. And of course, a lot of people are probably flying in from other places, Albany, Burlington, Bradley, that sort of thing. I guess I should say, autonomous vehicles, maybe that's something that will be on the horizon. But, we have a very rural road network. So, roughly 2/3 of it is unpaved. And so, as I understand the way technology is now, that could be a challenge. So, things may change in the near future, but that's something to think about. So traffic we get about 10,000 trips a day along Main Street here in Ludlow. That's sort of an annual average. Seasonal variation, so if you look at like the Okemo Mountain Road, that can be 4 to 5 times higher, say February versus April. But less variation on the main roads, but it's significant. We definitely notice the different traffic volumes during ski season, during foliage season to a somewhat lesser extent. And in the summers around the lakes also, there's also a little spike then too. So of course that's an issue, traffic congestion. One way to look at it is a sign of success. So the ski area is doing well if there's a lot of visitors. And we want visitors. One of the things I just wanted to point out is that I am working with the Ludlow Planning Commission right now on sort of their municipal plan update. We had a couple of public meetings, and some of the things we heard, and I'll just go through this quickly, but I think it's interesting, and there's a lot of connection to transportation. Ludlow's year-round population is, people generally feel like it's stagnated. It's not growing. It's not really decreasing much. It's stagnant. But people really want growth. People are really interested in revitalizing the village. And I think what some of the things I've heard is, we want it to be more pedestrian-oriented, safe, slower traffic, parking, those sorts of things. The people have expressed a real interest in a strong and more diverse economy. And I think also recognizing that it's a ski town, but it's more than that, there definitely was a strong interest, I felt, during these meetings to really try to maximize Ludlow and the surrounding area maybe as a tourist destination. And what does that mean? I think in part, certainly it means transportation, being able to get to where you need to go between your condo to the hotel, to the restaurant, to wherever. And more regionally, there's a lot of interest. I've heard about maybe there could be a trail, if you will, that goes from different restaurants. So when people are visiting, there's all these good assets in the region, and so we need a better way to get people to all of those destinations once they're here.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you. Rebecca, what's your sense? So tell us about the current bus service and whatever else you want to contribute to the discussion.
So the current is the region's nonprofit transportation program. And it's federally and state funded. And we provided 157,000 rides last year. It's on about a $2.5 million budget. But a lot of the pockets of transportation are in somewhat urban areas, if you can call any area in rural Vermont urban, like Brattleboro. So
Yes.
Brattleboro has 3 buses operating Monday through Saturday, 6 to 6. Heavy population, about 12,000 people, 19,000 that come in during the day. So that's heavily utilized. The service that we provide to this region up through Bells Falls, Springfield, into Cavendish and up to Ludlow are somewhat couple runs in the morning and a couple runs in the afternoon. So it's really geared right now towards employees that want to come to the mountain and work. We have a year-round, it's Route 57. You can find us on the web, crtransit.org, and that operates Monday through Friday. And then we have a shuttle bus that operates from Bells Falls, Springfield, Chester, up into Ludlow. That's the 61. And that's specifically designed just for providing services to this area, to Ludlow and to Okemo. It's the Okemo run. It's 61. Every year, we'll sit down with Okemo and redesign it to how they feel it best suits their needs. The goal is to bring in employees for them. But it's obviously open to the general public, and it can also be utilized by local businesses if need be. So that operates 7 days a week, a few hours in the morning and a few hours at night. So there's this time in between there that it could be utilized for transportation services for this region. But I think one of the big focuses and a lot of phone calls that we get, we're a public transit system and we provide elderly and disabled transportation for people to get to the doctors. But where we're missing the mark and where people are falling through are the people that come and want to stay at the motels and ski and go out at night and do all the things that they're used to doing back home in Boston or New York or out at Vail or Colorado, and there's just no transportation infrastructure for that. We'll get the call, but we can't rise to that challenge. So I think that's a big issue that we're having for this region.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And so what time are the two runs? And it's called 61 is the route?
The 61.
61.
And that operates 7 days a week, and then the 57. And they're up here at 6 o'clock in the morning.
6 a.m.
So we're typically working with lift services and housing and things like that.
And so on the beginning and on the end of kind of the work day.
Sure.
Yep, okay. Very good. And Justin, so Justin has been an advocate of wanting the transportation system improved. Justin and his partner, as I said at the introduction, run 2 businesses in downtown Ludlow, so they see firsthand some of the gaps, some of the challenges we see. Justin, could you talk about what you see as the needs and opportunities?
Well, the need is pretty self-evident. Ludlow, in particular, is a small community, but very vast in terms of area coverage. A lot of people need transport. In my business, we cater to, obviously, Travelers, Homestyle Hostel, and Main and Mountain are both lodging properties. And the days of Okemo being known as a family mountain, I think in some regard they are still known as a family mountain, obviously, and probably will retain that. However, more and more young families, more and more young professionals are coming up from the cities. A lot of them don't have vehicles, so I'll get a call that says, hey, I'm coming up from Boston into Amtrak in Bellows Falls. How do I actually get to the hostel? I give them, the 4 local transportation numbers that I have. But sometimes they're not available, other times they're taking hiatuses. It creates a problem. And then actually once our guests physically can actually get to the lodging property, Homestyle Hostel or Main and Mountain, getting to another part of the area is next to impossible. We are only a mile from the first chairlift, but unless you want to spend literally every day you're here skiing, it just isn't feasible. I think that having a rideshare program come into the area will not only benefit Ludlow, it will benefit all of the surrounding areas. That's why I'm so adamant on having the Chamber of Commerce directly involved with these rideshare programs, because then it can encompass all the areas. Ludlow might have the ski resort and it might have some awesome restaurants and lodging properties, but Weston's got a killer playhouse and Vermont Country Store. Chester's got an immaculate green that's very beautiful. There's all these. Springfield has got its own charm and great restaurants on the up and up. All these areas have something that they bring to the table that makes our area whole. And by robbing our guests, in essence, the ability to port between these properties and these locations, of the detriment of our own tourism program, you know. Anywhere that I've ever traveled has had a robust infrastructure and centered on transportation. And to not have that, it really complicates things.
It does, and it probably affects how someone thinks about the region in terms of coming back again. So you can do a bang-up job at Homestyle Hostel, feeding them all kinds of fresh food and giving them a great place to stay. But if the options for visiting different businesses around the region aren't there, and if the transportation isn't there, then it can be limited, right?
Sure.
And so it seems like our place in Vermont, Okemo Valley, is a big culture shift for some of our visitors. Mm-hmm. Isn't that right? So they're in urban areas. They're kind of used to grabbing a train, grabbing a taxi, grabbing an Uber, going wherever they want, whenever they want, and having the price be reasonable. Mm-hmm. For the most part. So we don't have that here. And before we kind of shift gears and do some talking off the cuff about options, how we view this is a starting point for a transportation discussion. You all weren't invited here to solve the issue unless you have a magic wand in your pocket. But I appreciate everybody being here and sharing your perspective. And so we'll take it from here. So Emily Mathis, who couldn't be here, and she's operations manager at Weston Playhouse. So she had spoken with me previously that transportation was an issue. So the Playhouse, and apparently the management team at the Weston Playhouse devote a lot of their energies to taxiing actors, visitors to the Weston Playhouse, getting them to and from. And so she's saying that their actors, designers, and directors, for the most part, come from the New York area. So this is our greatest need. We currently put everyone on Amtrak to Albany, do a pickup. And that means someone from the company management team is doing a lot of driving. There's a train to Rutland and Bellows Falls, but it's almost double the amount of overall travel time and only arrives once a day. So that, to me, is saying if they take the train to Rutland or Bellows Falls, it's going to be a lot more time than going to Albany for a pickup. Ideally, there would be an affordable option, train or coach bus from New York City to maybe Manchester or Ludlow. They would also be interested in any shuttle options. We typically use the Albany airport for any flights, and she's talking about a cost aspect that's not as favorable in Rutland. They also use Dartmouth coach from Dartmouth, New Hampshire to Boston Airport. Travel around Ludlow. So she breaks out the issue from her standpoint to and fro for the region and then within the region as being issues. Once people are in this area, there are practically zero options for them to get around. So she goes on to say that they will do a Ludlow quick stop at Shaw's once a week for people needing groceries. So that's the actors coming from New York City, coming to Vermont, probably being very curious and enamored with Vermont, being able to go to Shaw's once a week to explore. And they currently rent company vehicles from Rutland as well. And so that's some of what she's saying. I guess I would ask you to think about, are there other programs or options that this area would benefit from. We know from what Jason was saying that our population in the region changes dramatically. You know, it is pretty low at about 2,000 times 10 is over that, over 20,000 higher in the year. And so it puts more demands on systems. And so what are some of the options, or what are some of the, what's the potential, would you say? Anybody care to jump in?
I can start real quick. Vermont has a platform, a transportation platform called Go Vermont, and that's a ride matching program. So if you go onto the website Go Vermont, you can actually see people in your area that might be going in the direction that you're going in, and you share the cost of the ride, gas or whatever else. And once you sign up with Go Vermont, if for any reason you end up getting stranded at the other end to get back, say the ride that you took wasn't going to get you back,
Yes.
Vermont, the state of Vermont will pay to taxi you back home. So check that out as kind of like maybe a quick fix. You know, also, Vermont is putting money into a transit app platform. So it's like Go Transit, and you'll be able to see where every fixed route is in the state of Vermont. So if you're downtown at Ludlow and you want to see when the 61 was coming by your stop, you'd be able to check it out with the transit app. So that's coming this year. We're going to miss the ski season. But still, those are small windows of time where there's public transit out there. I think we were talking about utilizing a volunteer program that we utilize and setting up a platform for another type of ride share program earlier.
Mm-hmm. I think I've been interested in getting ride share to the area since we opened Homestyle Hostel in 2014. One of the main drawbacks of the companies that offer the ride share and of the local population, the 2140, is...
Justin, can I just stop you? I apologize. Sure. Could you just make sure people understand what ride share is and maybe
Yes.
some of the current options? And
ride share is a program, usually a cell phone-based, smartphone-based application that you would download. You would link your credit card up to it, and it projects a map. You pick where you would like to go. A driver then accepts your fare, picks you up and drops you off, and it's all automated. There's no need to exchange money or anything like that. You can also share the ride with strangers, or you can get a private ride. That sort of technology I think would be beneficial for the area just because it's great supplemental income for the local population, as well as a great tourist amenity. We did get some pushback on the local front just because they didn't want to modernize. They kind of wanted to keep Vermont, Vermont. And I couldn't agree more. I think that part of what makes Vermont special is the rurality, is the sense of small town community. However, if we can maximize the tourist and guest experience while also supplementing a lot of local income, I think it's really a win-win. So I would urge everybody out there who's watching this to sign up on one of those rideshare apps just for fun, so we can actually show these companies that there are people interested in doing this, and we are interested in growing this community, both localized and tourist-wise.
so Justin, are you suggesting Uber, Lyft, I don't know if there's others, so that if people that are watching today have an interest in being a driver, that what should they do?
So I would highly recommend anybody that wants to make any supplemental income. This is free of charge. All you do is you download one of the rideshare companies' apps, which are the companies Carol mentioned. There might be a few more. And just sign up as a driver, show interest, show the companies that, hey, there are people that want to make money here, there are people that are willing to help here. There is an interest. If we do that, chances are we can actually get a rideshare program in this area, which would be beneficial to, I think, everybody.
And I would add to that, if you have an interest in being a ride-share driver, and that's what could be Uber, Lyft, it could be another program that we haven't identified yet, to be in touch with me at the Chamber of Commerce, 228-5830. Justin, could they be in touch with you, or?
You're more than welcome to reach out to me directly. I will answer any questions that you might have. hello@homestylehostel.com is my email address. Email is the best way to contact me. And I can help set you up with the app. It's free of charge. They don't really require anything to sign up. To actually go through the process and become a driver on the road, you'll need to do you'll have to meet certain criteria, but to sign up is free, and that's all we're asking at this stage, is to just show the companies that we have interest.
And I think for representing the chamber, I would say that transportation is really how our region runs. Yes, we're very much tourism based. Without transportation, our sales would be next to nothing, and so transportation's very important to us. What are there other issues we should talk about before we close?
Can I just capitalize on the Uber and Lyft? So
Yes.
the state of Vermont, VTrans, Barb Donovan, 802-828-2828. I know you had mentioned that the town wants to keep everything Vermont-like and rural and horse and buggy and whatever else. It's very quintessential. But because we have our fixed route entrenched bus lines, the state of Vermont is even considering inviting Uber and Lyft to be that rural transportation provider that goes out beyond the fixed route and then
Excellent.
brings them to the train station or the bus station.
Yeah.
So it would be a coordinated effort between
Wow.
a system like an Uber and Lyft, and it would enhance the fixed route bus service. So you might not be paying for 25 miles, you might only be paying for 10 miles to get to a fixed route bus service that's typically free or $1 fare. So the state of Vermont is actively looking for those synergies and to have that type of coordination.
That would be really such a creative answer in many respects, and it wouldn't necessarily work for everyone, but it would. I think the more options, the better. So as we've talked, and what I've learned from our transportation system is it's kind of a lot to ask a transportation system that works for 2,000 people to also work for 22,000 people. So I think we have some growing pains related to that, but a little bit of kind of gap analysis in terms of when is the need, what's the map look like for the need kind of thing. Ultimately, for the man who became a friend on that 3-mile expedition out of town and back into Ludlow to get groceries and some other things, I would love to be in a position to hand to him and to other visitors to the region a transportation sheet, information sheet that just says, here's your transportation options, things that would identify both the fixed schedules as well as the variable transportation. So if someone has had too much to drink on a Saturday night, we don't want them on the road, do we? And so making sure there's transportation for situations like that, as well as, say, going to church on Sunday, maybe. So all of those things. What else have we? Now, did we sufficiently talk about the idea of the not-for-profit, a program that I heard about?
So we have a program of volunteers. We have anywhere from 15 to 70 volunteers that get reimbursed mileage, and it's a platform they get a manifest and they're scheduled. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll work with a nonprofit organization that wants to provide rides for people that fall through the cracks, like the people that we're talking about at this table today. And then the money's rifled through a nonprofit to pay for the ride, and the ride is typically the mileage, federal mileage fee of 55 cents, and then a $3 admin fee just to book the ride. So there's ways around, getting people out there to get transportation services that aren't really probably recognized or available on a website or in our brochure. So we work with organizations like Springfield Hospital, the VA, that has set up these separate coordination rides through our volunteer program.
Yeah.
And we're always looking for volunteers, and that's a volunteer mileage reimbursement at 55 cents, and it's non-taxed, so it's a reimbursement. And that's an opportunity for people to provide a ride as well.
The area is growing so rapidly, not just Okemo, but the entire southern Vermont area, I guess. And with the technology there, where we can actually focus on streamlining transportation and streamlining all these tourists, we're in effect going to miss out on a lot of potential visitors over the next few years if we don't proactively tackle this problem with transportation, because they'll just go elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree.
And we've worked so hard to build up southern Vermont into something to be proud of and a place and a destination where people want to go, that to come this close and fail on something as simple, well, we say simple, but actually it's very, very intricate and logistical nightmare. But to let it slip by our fingers by a transportation issue, it seems like a crying shame.
Yeah, and each of you have provided really good information on what our system currently is, some options of systems elsewhere that maybe we could be working toward. And I like what you talk about, Justin, in terms of growth for the region and where we go from here. I also would say, and maybe this is a closing thought, is that transportation, simple, maybe not, but people don't tend to want to think about it. So they want to be here, they want a dinner, they want to be in a hotel, they want to be skiing and doing things. They don't want to have to plan their transportation if they can help it. And that's our job kind of to do, is to keep it there, a little bit invisible, working, natural, so that if we're strategic in how we answer transportation, our visitors, are the people that are here, that live here full time, don't need to think about it. It's just there and it's answered. And so I just thank you all so very much for being here. Thank you. And
Thanks.
So I'm not sure where we go from here. This is just one program talking about transportation. It sounds like the town of Ludlow is working on a
They're actively planning their future, I guess you could say, and updating their plan as a result of that.
Yeah, excellent. And so if you have more to say, you want to express an opinion on this, or better yet, get involved, suggest some resources, please do be in touch. And so to reach me, Carol Lighthall at Okemo Valley Chamber, is 228-5830. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Don't be afraid to sign up for the ride shares. Highly important.
Thank you.